Hey, good morning. It's the Fort Worth Playboy, and this is the Fort Worth Playboy morning show. And I'm glad you're here. What do we cover here on the Fort Worth Playboy morning show? We cover game, pickup, relationships, and sex. And then when I say we, it's usually me and my Playboy's Bunny. We do this as a team. And tomorrow morning, we'll be on here at 7 a.m. Central Standard Time together again. And answering your questions and covering a couple topics. Usually we try to take one big picture item and break it down. Last week we did a civil trial, a divorce trial where the girl kind of went off on a tangent, and every man's worst nightmare was being realized in that courtroom. So we took that apart. We fall under the red pill, which is MGTOW and the men's rights activist movement and anything that has to do with the big picture of intersectional dynamics, be it economic or social or psychological. What really is the war of the sexes in a certain sense, for an old phrase. But us, Bunny and I, we tend to focus in on game and on tactical and practical solutions that you can use in your daily life to help you move girls from complete strangers to naked and in your bed pretty quickly, in a systematized, in a system that can be replicated and repeated reliably. And then also all the way to, reigniting the spark in marriages that have kind of gone dead after 20 or 30 years, and Bunny's extremely good at that. I'm glad you're here today. We're kind of on a tight schedule. If you like what you're seeing, you want to support this channel financially, go to fortworthplayboy.gumroad. I have 25 titles of specialized books. On whatever your problem is, we can probably address it. If it's confidence, Bunny has the quick guide to self-confidence. If you're dealing with online problems, you're not getting the matches you want, she has the Magic Bullet online dating handbook. If you're just coming out of a divorce, or you're new to game or new to dating, or you're not seeing the results you want, my basic training 1 and 2 are pretty good practical starters to lay down a foundation. We do very much lay down a foundation here of the basics because you can build upon that. And I think that's one of the problems that guys run into with women is they kind of jump into intermediate and advanced levels when they're not ready. You have to lay down a foundation to build on. So we'll start with a maxim, as we always do. Let's see if I can get this screen up. Maxim number 12 from Chateau Artiste. The cumulative experience with hot women imbues the womanizer with a genuinely aloof aura that attracts even more women to him. Corollary to Maxim 12. If you don't have an adequate amount of aloofness-inducing experience with hot women, act like you do. Act as if works just fine in this scenario. What I do like about game is because women cannot read your mind. They don't know. You can fake it till you make it. You can act as if, and you will get good results. And what's the interesting thing is when you act as if you're confident, act as if, you have 5 women chasing after you, act as if you got out of bed with 2 different girls this morning. When you do this and you stick with it, you start to see, you begin to internalize that feeling, you internalize the experiences, and pretty soon you are actually getting out of bed with one girl and you're going to bed with another girl the same day. You start seeing some strange correlations. It's almost like if you visualize yourself throwing a perfect pitch, for lack of a better analogy. You're a baseball player and you throw over and over and over and over. And mentally you see yourself throwing that perfect pitch, knowing you can, even though, you're not exactly hitting it exactly right every time. Over time, you will start making a perfect pitch more times than not. And with game, you can get way more accurate than you can throwing a baseball, believe it or not. You can get very good at selecting the girls that you're attracted to and that are attracted to you and moving them from stranger to in your bed. The cumulative experience with hot women imbues the womanizer with genuinely aloof aura. Again, when you are around, if you get lucky and a buddy of yours is a true, like a natural alpha, whether it be natural or learned, most guys are naturals that are out running around. I've seen most guys that are self-made tend to, they don't run with a partner always. Guys that are naturals naturally look for a wingman, and usually that's one of us, guys that have some natural ability, but also a lot of like learned ability on the ground. Natural alphas will be very lighthearted, kind of natural assholes. They approach women. They say things that you would never say yourself until you see it working. That's where a lot of asshole game comes from, is from the naturals. But when you have a lot of success, and it doesn't take long to start building on success, you start getting more success. It's kind of like you build a reputation, whether it's by word of mouth or by the way you carry yourself, that that if you miss this girl, it's like a bus. There's another one coming in 10 minutes. So the interesting thing is, and I want to convey this, how fast game works. When you focus in and study this stuff for about an hour a day and are actually, using it and applying it to your day-to-day life, usually within 6 weeks to 6 months, you have a completely different outlook in life. I mean, I always say that fitness is faster than game, and then business is the least fast, which stays. But sometimes with game, even though you're dealing with variables like women, as opposed to very solid, 45 pounds is 45 pounds in the gym, when you deal with game, you can see results faster than in any other personal improvement endeavor. It's that powerful. It's so rarely used, and it just works. So when you apply game, it doesn't take very long until you go from a guy that is kind of struggling to get dates to a guy that's juggling women. And it can happen within 6 weeks to 6 months on the outside. Definitely at 6 months, people have a completely different lifestyle. But I do get a lot of outreach from guys that started out struggling, and then they're at the intermediate. They have 2 girls in 1 week that they've slept with, that they're going out with for the second time. And then they have a third and a fourth girl that are going to be their second date, and they know that they'll close. Guys that use my how to build a dating system never go beyond the second date to close. It's either first date or second date. We've never had anybody go to a third date yet. No one's told me about it yet. It may happen. We'll see, in the future. But the cumulative experience with hot women imbues you with an aura of confidence that just carries. And again, you can fake it, and it attracts even more women to them because you have, one, irrational self-confidence, and you carry that with you everywhere you go. And you have outcome independence, because if she passes on you, that's okay. There's another girl coming in 10 minutes. You can just pick up the phone, you can text the next girl. Outcome independence is extremely sexy to women because they're used to guys being very outcome dependent upon her and how she acts, and then they react to that. But when a girl says, I'm not interested, you're like, okay, have a great day. And then you walk off, it tells her that you're definitely on to the next girl. You can't stick around. I always tell guys, if you get rejected, just move on quickly. No, okay, thanks. Have a great day. And then move on, and then ask the next girl out. You can ask her sister out. If her mom's standing there, you can ask her out. Again, don't hesitate to immediately bounce to the next girl, because the faster you move, because again, it's just girls. They can be replaced. She says no, that's okay. The next one will say yes. And if that one says no, that's okay. The next one will say yes. You will get a yes eventually. It's a numbers game. But again, in the beginning. You have to focus in and know that you can fake this. Your irrational self-confidence, your outcome independence. And again, you kind of have to fake it just like with any skill. It's like guys that are, like I always try to give it the sports analogy, but you can even do it in your job. When you start your job, you're not a master at what you're doing. You do have to kind of fake that you're good or competent at least at what you're doing. And then over time, with enough experience, you actually become competent. It's kind of like in the gym business or in personal training. It takes you about 5 years to see everything, every possible scenario once. And I found that in almost all careers that have some substance to them, it takes a minimum of 5 years of experience to see everything you're going to see once. You may not be able to deal with it smoothly, but nothing's going to hit you that you haven't seen before. And I think you can see the same thing in game, but you'll get that cumulative experience a little bit faster. I don't want anybody to think that it takes 5 years to sort out women, but that's an example. It usually takes about 1 year to 2 years if you're like running through a lot of women to see just about every scenario once. If you're running a lot of women, if you end up like in monogamy, well, now you have a whole another set of problems. But just remember that you can fake this. Maxim number 12, the cumulative experience with hot women imbues the womanizer, you, with a genuinely aloof aura that attracts even more women to him. Always have that irrational self-confidence and outcome independence, and you'll naturally attract more women. Next slide. Avoiding the friend zone. And you need little keys and you need reinforcement. And that's why I always tell people, like follow me, follow 007, follow the French OG, follow Gary PUA Pickup, Dexter Day Game. Follow guys that every couple of tweets, they put out a basic. You have to see the basics over and over and over for it to drill in. And you have to hear the basics in different forms and different fashions and hear different stories that are reinforcing the basics to help you remember the basics, especially when you're on your feet and you have to recall it, and it becomes more instinctual. Don't give her a shoulder to cry on. Give her a dick to ride on. And this is very important, especially when you're dealing with girls that have just come out of a breakup. If you are a normal guy and a nice guy and you're working on it, your first inclination is kindness, understanding, and support. As a player, you have to recognize she's coming out of a divorce or a breakup. She is looking for a dick to ride on. She will decide down the road whether she wants another boyfriend. Because again, that's another thing that I think nicer guys or less experienced guys misconstrue. They think a girl coming out of a relationship or a marriage wants to get into another marriage or relationship pretty quick. And they normally don't. They know that there's going to be a lag. They're going to have a couple of weekends where they're banging 3 or 4 guys, weeks where they're going out every day. It just depends. But none are looking to look, if they don't have the guy already chosen, sometimes they'll break up and then they got the new boyfriend the same day because they already had him. But if they are bouncing around, they will just as happily, just as gladly, just as enthusiastically bounce on your dick as anybody else's. And so you need to be aware. Again, you're not there to be an emotional tampon for girls coming out of a breakup or an emotional problem. Your job is to have something planned, ask her out, have something planned, show up, have a good time, and have sex. And she can take care of the rest. And that's a good time for a girl that's just coming out of a breakup because it tells her that she's still she is still attractive to men. I mean, there's a lot of ego stuff here. And if you can just keep showing up, have fun, have sex, down the road, she'll decide whether she wants a relationship or not. She may just keep you in the rotation, and she can stay in yours. But again, do not default to supportive, emotional, when she starts talking about, whatever has caused her, so much distress, try to get the subject changed. Change it to something more lighthearted, something more or sexier, for lack of a better word, but move it on. Just go, hey, I might not be the best person to talk about this stuff, but let's talk about this. Just kind of keep her moving on. It's kind of like when a girl will start talking about other men. You have to have little phrases that you can kind of fall back on, like, hey, I don't think I'm really the right person for this anyway. And then you change it to a subject that's more interested. Or you say, hey, don't you have any like girlfriends that you can talk to about this? I'm not really the right person. And then you change the subject, because they will attempt to, either through not them being naive or them testing to see if you'll become an emotional tampon. They'll try to make you the shoulder that they cry on, but you're really there for one thing, and that's for her to have a dick to ride on when she's in distress or, recovery or whatever she's experiencing at the time. So again, when you're dealing with girls that are just coming out of divorces and breakups, you're not there for support and comfort. You're there for fun and excitement and sex. Don't give her a shoulder to cry on. Give her a dick to ride on. And keep that phrase in mind, and you should do fine. Logistics make all the difference. Guys always reaching out. They're like, oh, my logistics were bad. Or they don't even realize, newer guys or guys that are not in game don't even realize like how bad their logistics are. And they're missing girls left and right because they have a 45 to an hour drive home. And she's like, I can't do that. So you need to know your logistics. I always recommend your place because you have home field advantage and can control the environment. Not everyone has that advantage. Some guys say fuck it and fuck in an alley or on their car. Doesn't really matter as long as it consistently works. What I want you to focus in on, because this knucklehead was like, don't want a girl to know where I live. So either he lives with his parents, or he thinks that a dirtbag apartment won't work, or he thinks he's a spy or some bullshit, or he's like such a low life that he doesn't want anyone to know where he lives. The point is that what are the advantages of taking her back to your place? I say you have control of the environment. You want to have as much control, because I've lost count of the number of guys that lose a first night lay because they show up at her apartment and her roommate's staying there wide awake, or her roommate's there having a party, or two roommates are there, or the dog shit on the floor, or just 1,000 variables that you're not aware of. And it throws the whole thing. This guy spent 2, 3, 4 hours moving this girl from stranger to almost in bed naked, but instead, they're cleaning up dog shit and losing the mood. So when you have control of the environment, you have your logistics, you know where you're going to go, you know where your last spot is and how far it is away from your place, you're going to close more girls. I cannot convey how important having pre-laid good logistics are to increasing your fuck rate. I always recommend your place because you have home field advantage and can control the environment. You know what you're walking into. If you've got a roommate, you've always said, hey, I'm going to be back by like 11 p.m. So if you can like be invisible, disappear, don't come out, that'd be great. Just know that you have more control over the environment. You're going to have more closes. If you know that it's close by, ideally is less than 5 minutes walk from your last location. That is ideal. The less time you guys have for her to start going, I don't know about this, or to even open her mouth, because she's going to say something. She's going to say something that's going to like slow everything down. So you want to move it on and move it quickly. At least be in that environment that things can happen. If you don't have that advantage, you got to start thinking ahead. Can I use my car? Would a hotel room work here? You need to know before you go, because if you look like you're confident and you know what you're doing and this is a good location, she will roll with it. It's when you're like, I don't know, you're looking around for cameras and you're like, oh shit, I hope we don't get caught. Then, you're in for a bad time. And again, I don't really depend on going back to their place if you don't know them that well, because they don't have control over what's going on. And these are girls. They could change their mind at any moment. So I always recommend your place because you have home field advantage and can control the environment. Not everyone has this advantage. Some guys say fuck it and fuck in an alley on their car. Doesn't really matter as long as it constantly works. I mean, there are guys that like bend her over a trash can in the alley behind a bar. That's his system. So if it works for you, that's all that matters. You have to test it. You go, I wonder if this will work. And if it works with the first one, you can probably try it with the second one and it'll work again. So that's the real deal. Let's see what else we got on the agenda today. About 9 minutes. I came across a couple of posts where the girls were kind of straight up and honest about their divorce. And they said basically they just wanted to really fuck around. And it happens. And I think guys underestimate how often, including women with children, girls will dump a solid, stable, sane man to ride random dicks. And it happens all the time. You have to realize with a lot of these divorces and with breakups, girls make bad decisions literally constantly. They just can't help themselves. They're not good at decision making because, especially in the US, we give girls so much leeway in decision making. We almost treat them like equals, which is a bad idea, that they shoot off. It's like a rocket with no control. They just go in any direction. And girls that get too much freedom or looseness, or, well, just like when Bunny and I followed this divorce case where the girl's pretty religious, she homeschools, very straight mom, and she meets a guy while she's like trying to sell like a chair on Facebook, and he's a convicted felon, and she is like gone within 30 days. She was out of the house and living with this convicted felon while her husband or ex-husband and 3 kids are like, what the hell just happened? Girls will dump a solid, stable, sane man to ride random dicks or a random dick. And it happens all the time. It doesn't, and I don't tell people, and I don't tell guys to make them paranoid. I tell them to reinforce the knowledge that girls make bad decisions that have they affect you. They affect you, they affect your family, but they have nothing to do with you. It's like when girls flake, guys go, yeah, we were supposed to meet up and then she just didn't show up. Well, 99% of the time, an ex came back on the scene. It has nothing to do with you. And it always kind of cracks me up when these guys are jumping into the comments. They're like, oh, she just decided she didn't like you, or, you said something wrong. No, what you're doing is fine. You know more than 99.9% of the population about picking up women. It's her. She makes bad decisions. She's got a history of bad decisions behind her. And you can look at it. I mean, is she married at 19 or 20? Well, she's probably been making some bad decisions. All kinds of, I'm going to follow my career, all kinds of bad decisions, starting at birth almost. But again, girls will, and it happens. All these guys are like, she doesn't have very much of a sex drive. Girls will dump a solid, sane, stable man to ride random dicks. It might be for a week, might be for 6 months, it might be for 6 years. But it happens all the time. So when girls do kind of crazy shit, they flake, they don't show up, they disappear, they walk off. It's most of the time, it's nothing that you've done. If you did something, you tend to know, like, let's say, you just, bankrupted the family and you're in rehab and you're trying to dry out. You probably drank too much. You're an alcoholic. Yes, you are a contributing factor to the failure of your family, but that is not always the case. There's lots of alcoholics out there that are functioning, but the wife just changes her mind one day, and it happens. Just recognize that once you ferret out the big rocks, and it's not you, it's not alcohol abuse, drug abuse, hand abuse, it's something going on the other side that you have no control over. All you can do is react and try to do damage control. And just keep that in mind. Girls will dump a solid, stable man for no reason whatsoever, other than she's curious or wants to get crazy, or, a convicted felon decides to buy a chair from her. she decides to run off and change her life in 30 days. Happens all the time. And girl logic. We got like 5 minutes. My husband bought me this new car. I tore the mirror off just backing out of the garage. I'm just going to park it and say I don't know what happened. Again, and girls, and this is something that I haven't explored. I need to get with Bunny on this because it's still something I really can't comprehend sometimes. It's like women, especially married women, don't want to ever admit that their husband is right or that they made a mistake. And it can be one or the other. I mean, he can be right about a decision and she still makes the other decision to follow her own thoughts or her own decision making. And it blows up on her, but she is loath and will dig her heels in all the way to divorce and beyond to dig in and never have to admit that he was right and that she was wrong about a subject. And girls will hide a lot of stuff like this, especially little stuff where they start, because girls can't drive. And, you know, you see it all the time because you see it. I see it like, you know, watching my parking lot at the gym, like women come all the way to a full stop in a main street of traffic so they can turn right. And there's kind of a little bit of a hump, but they don't know where the corners of their car are. The hump scares them. They're afraid they'll bottom out. And so they come to a full stop in a lane of traffic, and the people are like hitting their brakes behind them all the time. And it happens. Girls cannot drive. They can't drive into the garage. They can't drive out of the garage. But again, not only that, but they'll tear the mirror off their car, park in, and just shut down. They'll take it, they'll throw it in the trash or just throw it in the back seat and then tell them, I don't know what happened. I don't know. And it's like, that way when I walked out to the car, I was laying on the ground. If they even admit anything, he might have to walk out and see the right mirror is missing. But just know that sometimes, you know, especially when you're in a long-term relationship, things are going to happen that literally seem impossible. And it's because something has happened and she's not talking and she's taking the fifth. She's not going to self-incriminate herself. And women will spend their entire lives doing this. I mean, it's one of those weird things. And that's probably a subject that I need to ask Bunny about tomorrow, about women that will not admit fault or ever admit that their husband was right about something. Like it's some tragic thing for her to, you know, give him any type of leeway. So anyway, my husband bought me this new car. I tore the mirror off just backing out of the garage. I'm just going to park it and say I don't know what happened. And that is girl logic. And there's all kinds of girl logic in today's Twitter headlines. But if you like this, if it gives you insight into how girls' brains work so you can better manage them and seduce them and move them towards wherever you want them to move or to manage them, then I have more products available at fortworthplayboy.gumroad.com. And like I always suggest, Basic Training 1 and 2, it's a bundle. It's 2 books for the price of one, and it's 100 points. It's everything: how to text, how to open a conversation, how to dress, how to ask a girl out, all the basics, hundreds of basics that need to be covered, and you need to have a foundation so you can build your more advanced game, upon that. And that's the real deal. If you like this video, if you like what you're seeing, click like, subscribe, or comment below. Let us know how we're doing. You can ask questions, and I will get those questions answered on the question of the day in a separate video. But we welcome your questions. We welcome your comments. And if you have watched this all the way through, I appreciate your time. It's very valuable, and we recognize that and value your time and try to deliver as much value for that time when you're here. And you can walk away with something you can apply today. And I hope you guys have a great day, and we will see you tomorrow morning, Bunny and I, at 7 a.m. Central Standard Time. Have a good day.